Finally, after months of waiting, the Konosuba dub of Season 2 is upon us. Which, FYI to Crunchyroll, if you're going to announce the dub as coming soon, people are going to expect at most 2 to 3 months, not 8 months. Seriously, you announced this initially in July of 2019. It's about to be March of 2020, and last time I checked, that's not soon. Unless, of course, you're Valve. And on that note, Gabe, let me buy a Valve Index already, you fat piece of Sorry, lost my composure for a bit. Anyway, if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If this video gets 50 likes, I'll definitely do a follow-up of the review of Season 2 dub after it releases. With that, let's begin. When I first watched Konosuba in its original Japanese form, what my first thought was, man, where has this show been all my life? But of course, also, after that was, man, an English dub of this show would be terrible. And there's a bunch of good reasons why I thought that. The first reason being that the Konosuba voice actors in Japanese did an amazing job on this show. They genuinely loved every single aspect of it, and you can just tell by their performance. But more importantly, it's been a really long time since I last saw a Japanese work dubbed. How long? Well...
There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
Okay, too long ago. Let's fast forward a bit.
These donuts are great. Jelly-filled are my favorite. Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
Close. One more time.
Believe it. Believe it. Believe it. Believe it. Believe it.
There we go. So yeah, you can say my experience has been pretty lackluster at best when it comes to dubs. But then I stumbled upon this clip.
You're too late! I sentence thee to death. In 1 week, you shall die!
No, Darkness! Damn it! He put a death curse on her!
In 1 week, you crimson demon child, your crusader will die! Till then, she will suffer as she trembles in terror of her impending doom.
You fiend! You have chained this diabolical death curse to me, and the only way to remove it is to submit to your whims! You wish to defile me, don't you?
What?
What shall I do, Kazuma?
How should I know?
I can feel his filthy eyes on me, hungry, wanting. They are the eyes of a degenerate, one who would make a sex slave of me. And to break this foul curse, I shall have to submit my body to all manner of pornographic acts, over and over again. Oh, the horror! What should I do, Kazuma?
Still don't know.
Who could have expected things to become so risque? I do not want to go, but I have no choice. I shall resist as long as I can. Do not try to save me. I shall return someday.
And after watching that masterpiece of a performance, I knew I had to watch the entire dub. Now, I know there's a bunch of people in the anime community who are sub-purists, and I'll probably not convince any of those to watch the English dub. But if you're a fan of the show and haven't already seen the dub, give it a chance, because this dub is probably one of the best done in a long time. But without further ado, here are my personal thoughts on this dub's cast. Starting with my main man, Kazuma. And boy, is this a weird one to talk about, because he's a mixed bag. When I first started watching the dub, he was easily one of the hardest voices I had to adjust to. Seriously, just contrast this.
すいません。うちの女神がこの場にいなかったら、多分このゾンビたちはわざわざ寄ってきませんでした。
With this.
Honestly.
Damn her! Water's his weakness, see? Do you know any water spells or are you totally useless?
The pitch change was so severe, it was jarring. But over time, it grew on me, and when I was awarded with moments like this...
You creep! This is harassment! We're all gonna die and you're trying to comb a field!
I'm not cupping anything! I'm trying to use Drain Touch where your skin's the thinnest! Hey, get your ass back here! Would you quit fighting me? You're lucky I don't touch your chat!
If I die again, I don't think I want to come back. I'm gonna boycott life.
Okay, can we just take a second to appreciate the line, boycott life? Because that might as well be the slogan for millennials. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Gold tier lines aside, Kazuma is not all positive. And it's not just because of his high-pitched voice. Like, one of my favorite smaller gags in the anime was the I am Kazuma joke.
カズマです。
どうしよう、カズマ。
はい、カズマです。
カズマ、カズマ。
カズマです。
カズマ。
カズマです。
カズマ、カズマ。
カズマだよ。
カズマ。
はいはい、カズマ。
私は突撃するぞ。
え？おい。
And while what it gets replaced with isn't bad, it's inconsistent with the sub of the anime. And as the anime progresses, I feel like this will end up being a bigger problem since it's a reoccurring joke. But one of the biggest oversights for Kazuma is leaving out gender equality. I mean, come on, how can you be Kazuma, aka Mr. Gender Equality, and then snuff one of his signature lines like that? And sure, they replace it with something that gets the same meaning across, but it's not the same. And just like I am Kazuma, the line gets reused over and over again in a later season. So I'm really curious what they're going to do in the Season 2 dub about that. And if God forbid they take away the line entirely, the Season 2 dub immediately loses a ton of points for me. Moving on, we have Aqua and Darkness, and let me just say, they are both near perfect. Seriously, for Aqua, it almost feels like they took the Japanese voice actor and made her learn perfect English, because hearing her voice in a dub is pretty much identical to the way I emulate reading the subtitles in my head.
I need some money! I thought I'd get a bigger award after our quest, but I didn't, and I owe those guys, but I don't have any money, and I don't know what to do! I thought I'd be rich by now, so I racked up a bar tab of 100,000 dirhams, and now I have to pay her!
That ain't my problem! You're the one who said we should keep her all separate instead of combining them!
But I only said that because I thought I'd make a killing off that quest!
Greedy bitch!
As far as the Darkness voice, it wasn't something I expected, but the way she delivers her lines are top-notch. I really wish I could say much more about these two, but I really can't. They are so perfect. If I had a nitpick, it would be that Aqua's voice lost a bit of that whininess to it, but honestly, you could almost see that as a good thing when you think about it. And if I were to make a nitpick for Darkness, well, I can't really think of one. She really is just perfect. And before I ever came across this dub, I would have bet money that if they were to make a dub of this show, Darkness would have easily been the one that they messed up. But Christina V really knocked this role out of the park. She managed to both perfectly capture a believable female night voice, and then do a complete 180 to when Darkness's more ecchi side kicks in.
They are offering 1 million heirs to hunt a pack of white wolves! I can already imagine the thrill of wild beasts clawing and slobbering on me.
Nope.
And if I really think about it, it's her performance that really got me to watch the dub in the first place. The hell is that noise?
雨の日、雪の日、穏やかな昼のひとときにも。
Now it's time for everyone's favorite explosion wizard, Megumin. And I'm just gonna say it, I'm sorry, but she's the weakest of the four. Now, don't get me wrong, she isn't bad. She's just, well, okay? She still has her moments. Her English voice can still nail that crazy explosion obsession.
So, like, if I had enough points and wanted to learn explosion magic, all I have to do is ask and you teach me?
Yes, exactly! That's all you'd have to do, Kazuma! If you want to learn explosion magic, I can teach you as much as you want! When you think about it, is there any other skill that's more worthwhile to know? No, there most definitely is not.
But honestly, when she's at her best, she just barely matches Rie Takashi's original performance. But what's really missing is that extra oomph, that extra kick when she casts her explosion. I'm sorry, but nothing will really top the iconic Explosion! Said in beautiful English. And it genuinely hurts for me to say this, because the English VA really felt like she did her best. It's like having to pick the ugly child and say it was her. Now you might ask why I wouldn't think Kazuma is the worst, since it seemed like I had more complaints about him. But the thing is, he makes up for it with a lot of scenes that I genuinely think were improved because of his new VA. While for Megumin, I think the performance is just straight up a net loss for the show. Alright, now looking at the dub as a whole, overall it doesn't feel like I'm watching a legitimate anime. And what do I mean by that? Is that half the time it feels like I'm watching an abridged series to an anime. And I mean Can you blame me?
Kazuma,
Yeah?
I have a request.
Sure. What is it?
Would you please let me suck it out?
Absolutely.
Are you kidding me? This has to be illegal!
As your fellow goddess, I hereby bear testament that it is indeed legal.
Whoops, that's actually an abridged series. How'd that get in there? Well, either way, watching the show in the dub just overall feels weird. But then the show is weird. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the dub feels like a different flavor of weird, if that makes sense. Dubbing a show is already a difficult task to nail correctly. You can't just take the subtitles from the original show and get some voice actors to perform them. There are things that can be said quicker or slower in Japanese than in English, and vice versa. Sometimes the lip flaps that they have to work with are limiting, and sometimes due to cultural differences, some things need to be rewritten slightly to make more sense. Anyway, making a dub for the show is already hard, but then making a comedy is even harder. Comedy requires timing, and being able to deliver lines that come out funny is pretty much how the Konosuba dub lives or dies on. This dub is definitely not perfect, but the team that created this really did shoot for the stars but ended up landing on the moon. Honestly, if it weren't for the fact that the Japanese actors were so good to begin with, the English dub would look amazing. And I know it sounds like I'm giving the Japanese cast an amazing amount of praise, but I can't tell you that they didn't do an amazing job. They really loved making their work. In fact, here's a little tidbit of the interview when they were making the movie.
泣きました。
泣いてたね。
泣きましたね。嬉しくて。
でもあの時ってまだ映画って決まってなかった。
決まってなかったですね。なんか新作決定っていうお知らせでしたよね。
まあでも何にしても一気に2期とやってきて、すごい大好きな作品だったから、続きがやれるっていうだけで本当に嬉しかったです。
本当ですね。なんか自然となんか涙が出てたというか。本当にカズマたちがまだ動き続けるんだっていうのが分かった瞬間に安心感とかなんか満たされた感じとかなんかワクワクドキドキとか楽しいこと待ってるんだろうなって感じが、
僕にとってはやっぱり声優になって初めての主演映画になったからなんか喜びひとしおというかすごい気合い入りました。
If you haven't seen the movie, which is where, in my opinion, Konosuba is cranked up to 11, you'd know that they're serious, because the whole cast, especially Kazuma and Megumin, were phenomenal in that movie. But I digress, this isn't a review of the movie. So, conclusion time. Is the dub better than the sub? Of course not. I never would say that. But is the dub worth your time? Absolutely. In fact, whenever I decide to watch an episode of the show, I find myself coming to the dub rather than the sub. But it's not because I think it's better. It's because, well, I like to watch stuff while doing other things. Which is not something I can do with the Japanese version. At least, not until my Japanese gets way better. I can't wait to see the Season 2 dub. And if all things go according to plan, this video will come out the day before it comes out. Which is February 25th. And I'm just dying to see the Season 2 dub. Because there are so many moments in Season 2 that I just can't picture in my head in English. And if you want me to do a review on that, leave a like on this video. And subscribe, because, hell, I don't know. I told you to.